One theme of this course is that we do not only have free will in the first order sense, which is the capacity to consider options, weigh them in light of our own reasons, and then select and enact one of them. We also have second order free will, which is the capacity to choose to become a new kind of chooser in the future. Central to this capacity is the willpower to see a plan of action through so that our nervous system will change in the way that we want it to. For example, any of us could transform our nervous system with consistent practice into one that can process and produce, say, Swahili a year from now, if we set our minds to it. In the previous sections, we considered ways in which willpower can be cultivated. One of the most important ways is fostering a conviction that a goal is in fact attainable if one does not give up. A goal is rarely something so simple as going to a destination. Typically, goals and destinations are pursued in order to realize something meaningful. We drive to New York in order to surprise our mother on her birthday, or we study hard now in order to become a doctor. A key point then is that humans act for reasons that are meaningful. We're not mere information processing devices like a laptop. What's the difference between information and meaning? Information can be thought of as a change or difference in input that informs one. If the reduction is from two possibilities to one certainty, say we hear yes when we might have heard either yes or no, that reduction in uncertainty from two possibilities to one certainty comprises one binary digit or bit of information. The meaning of that yes plays no role. A bit is a bit, regardless of the implications of that answer. Meaning, in contrast, is not just a difference. Biological information or meaning is about a difference that makes a difference, to use the lovely turn of phrase of biologist Gregory Bateson. If the yes is an answer to the question, is today Tuesday? Not much of meaning has transpired. But if the answer is in response to, will you marry me? The implications are momentous. Meaning, unlike information, can be quantified not in bits, but in terms of the degree to which a model about the world must be reconfigured or updated in light of some event. If someone says yes or no to the question, will you marry me? We must completely reconfigure our model concerning how we will spend the rest of our lives. Whereas, if someone says yes or no to the question, is today Tuesday? We hardly have to update any of our mental models at all. The absence of information can be meaningful as well. If, according to our mental model, a person who wanted to marry us would answer yes immediately, a non-answer or an answer of silence would be very meaningful. Humans are motivated to pursue goals that will realize meaningful outcomes. This is only possible relative to a causal mental model about what is going on in which the implications or consequences of incoming information can be understood. A tiny change in the informational input, such as an eyelash on your shirt, might have huge implications for you and your spouse if she believes the eyelash is from another woman. Whereas a huge change in information, say the whole visual scene getting darker because a cloud has passed overhead, might have no implications of any consequence. If we believe we can attain a goal that has meaning, say that we will survive a diagnosis of cancer, we will feel hopeful and strive to realize that goal. But if we believe that survival is impossible relative to our mental model of what's going on, we will likely feel despair or acceptance and will likely give up trying. This is why hope is so central to free will, volition, and willpower, and despair is so central to its destruction. If we want to cultivate will, we have to cultivate hope and a conviction that a goal is attainable. I'll now consider a horrible example to make clear that this is also true of animals. Kurt P. Richter of Johns Hopkins University, shown here, carried out some sickeningly cruel experiments on rats that made clear the importance of hope in giving animals a will to keep trying. He noticed that rats placed in tall cylinders filled with water tended to drown quickly, often within just minutes. But some he rescued just before drowning by taking them out of the cylinder just for a minute, after which he put them back in. Even though they had been on the verge of drowning a minute before, they would now not give up, swimming nonstop for up to 3 days before succumbing to exhaustion and then drowning. In science, we're taught not to anthropomorphize animals, but how can an objective scientist look at such data and not conclude that the most conservative explanation is that the rats, who had been taken out of the water and then put back in the water, hoped for another rescue, whereas the unrescued rats succumbed to despair? In the learned helplessness research of Martin Seligman and colleagues, a dog could not escape a shock. It was then given away to escape the shock, but didn't bother. It just lay down and whined as it endured the shock. The animal had come to believe that it had no control over the situation, because in the previous period, it in fact could do nothing about getting shocked. Seligman and others have argued that learned helplessness mimics aspects of depression. The role of hope, hardiness, a feeling of control, and willpower in humans is no less important to our survival and success in life than it is to other animals. And a loss of hope is also central to human passivity, learned helplessness, grief, loneliness, depression, and loss of drive to fight for change. Here's a related example involving humans. In 1941, German U-boats repeatedly sank the ships owned by British shipping magnate Lawrence Holt. He noticed that older sailors disproportionately survived, while younger ones drowned more often. This seemed to make no sense because the younger men were physically stronger than the older men. It was also costing him a lot of money because he had to pay pensions to many young widows. He asked educator James Hogan why the younger sailors drowned more often than the older ones, and together, after interviewing many survivors, they concluded that the older sailors did not give up in desperate circumstances because they were psychologically hardier, having survived difficult situations before. Even though they were thrown into cold water in the North Sea, they did not lose hope that they might be rescued, and they believed in their own ability to make it. They also found that younger sailors tended to go it alone, whereas the older sailors tended to work together until rescued. To foster the mental hardiness that the older sailors had learned through life experience, Holt, Hogan, and German educator Kurt Hahn created a school in Wales in 1941 designed to teach psychological toughness and hardiness to English sailors called Outward Bound. Perhaps you've heard of Outward Bound. I did a 3-month course with them when I was young, and it was one of the best things I have ever done in my life. By placing students in challenging situations that they must overcome, they learn what it takes to survive, to cooperate, and to endure. Students learn not to give up and to strive to attain a goal despite the inevitable setbacks. Students learn, in effect, to strengthen their willpower. Just as hope can foster the drive needed to carry on, despite setbacks and difficulties, a loss of hope can lead to giving up. Researchers have found that parents who have lost a child have a much higher risk of dying from a heart attack than parents who have not lost a child. Other research has shown that the rate of heart attacks increases after a diagnosis of cancer, and that the likelihood increases the more severe the diagnosis. And still other researchers have found a broken heart syndrome, where people facing acute emotional distress develop physical heart problems and sometimes can die of heart failure. In all cases, it may be that excessive sympathetic nervous activation actually damages heart function. So the bottom line is that humans and other animals need to believe that there is a way to accomplish a goal, or they will not strive to attain it. People and other animals need hope to function healthily. This is actually the main reason I decided to teach this MOOC, even though I knew it would be a lot of work. There are so many people from the fields of neuroscience and philosophy now saying that we lack free will. The data show, however, that people who believe this are more likely to cheat and feel depressed. Who wants to feel like a passive puppet where everything one would think or do was set in stone at the Big Bang billions of years ago before one was even born? Once I realized just how wrong these free will deniers are, I felt I had to write a book about it, and now to do this MOOC in order to get the common sense affirming message out that we do have free will. With this MOOC, I want to give people both hope and strong arguments that they are agents who are in charge of their own lives and destinies, capable of changing the world for the better.